I was hospitalized following a car accident 4 days ago. Ava, my daughter, comes to see me after school virtually every day. Hey, Ava, did you inform your dad about me? I inquired. Yeah, I told him, she answered. Hasn't he come to see you yet? My spouse Henry hasn't paid me a single visit in the entire time I've been in the hospital. His lack of interest made me a little depressed. Eva stopped by to see me 2 days later while she was on leave from school. My closest friend Stephanie entered the hospital room abruptly. How terrible! Did you have an accident? She cried out. I was taken aback as I hadn't disclosed the accident to Stephanie. How was she aware of this? Then Stephanie turned to see Henry behind her. He said, I need to talk to you, without showing any regard for my safety. Let's get divorced. I'm marrying Stephanie. He made the announcement loud enough for everyone to hear. How come? Why would you say that? Stunned, I inquired. I told Stephanie I loved her. You have to go with Eva because we're getting married, he said once more. I was hearing things that I couldn't believe. Stephanie, what is happening? It has the exact same meaning as it sounds. Henry is my love. Will you please give him to me? Stephanie had a serious look on her face. Could anyone be so self-centered? Disregarding the pair of passionate guests, my daughter suddenly started laughing. Eva remarked, Hey, you two can't get married. She said something really surprising next. My name is Nora. In between housework and work, I like to watch romantic TV shows that are difficult. Not at all. Is this the end of it? Despite being alone, I frequently catch myself conversing with the television. I reside with my husband and our daughter, and we get along well with my in-laws, who are also in the neighborhood. We have a peaceful connection, not like the dramatic stories I watch. My life is routine and unremarkable, and because of this, there are moments when I yearn to explore the world of television shows. Henry, my husband, is incredibly happy and excels at athletics rather than academics. He's always so much fun and such a mood setter. He was surrounded by people all the time when he was younger. He appeared brilliant to someone like me, who was comparatively quiet and introspective, and I found myself drawn to him. But I've learned that it's difficult to unlearn views that were acquired when one was young. In our 40s, what was previously quite appealing is now a little difficult. What I used to find admirable about him is now a cause for concern. Concerns have recently been raised about Henry and our daughter Eva's connection. Ava would rather be alone than socialize with friends. She keeps her appearance simple, does well academically, and consistently ranks in the top half of her high school class. Henry, who detested studying above all, found it difficult to comprehend Eva's commitment. If he only had that thinking, it would be one thing, but he felt compelled to force his opinions on her. You spend all of your time studying alone in your room, but girls don't need to study to survive. Why not practice being more endearing if you have time to waste studying? When Ava was trying to study, Henry would say stuff like these aloud enough for her to hear. Dad, that's not a common belief anymore. I can't do the job I want to do if I don't study. It's my decision to study or not, so just leave me alone, Eva would argue. Henry never failed to comment when he spotted her studying, even in spite of her protests. Hey, Henry, would you please stop bugging Eva to go to her studies? She's very dedicated, which is a good thing, I would add, attempting to support her. Making friends and getting a job didn't require me to study. Henry would respond, lost in his own nostalgia and unresponsive to logic. Playing with friends is more fun, and you'll have no regrets. Eva was becoming tired of Henry's constant intrusions. How long will Dad continue to say those things, Mom? Even when I want to study, I can't focus, she would question me, looking disappointed. Eva, I apologize. I keep warning him not to bother you while you're studying, but he refuses to listen no matter how often I emphasize the value of studying. Henry and Eva started fighting more frequently as a result, and I had to meditate every time. Henry continued to impose himself even after Eva left. Is it really true? Eva's goal is to attend college. Even in front of his own parents, Henry would say, a girl like her doesn't need to study. Don't say words like that since they are directed at a female. Gender is no longer a factor in today's world. Maybe you should go back and study yourself before you criticize others. His parents, Wilson and Leah, would plead, unable to bear to watch their granddaughter belittled. Henry would pout when anyone, even his parents, disagreed with him. He would whine, "Why is everyone against me?" His concerns would get worse on the days that Wilson and Leah reprimanded him, and he would take a break from communicating with Eva and myself. One day, while returning from a shopping trip, something unexpected occurred. "Hey, Nora, is that you? How much time has passed? Do you still recall me?" "Stephanie? Do you currently live here?" My closest friend Stephanie, who moved out of state after graduating from middle school, was the one who reached out to me. I always kind of envied Stephanie since she was always so knowledgeable about nails, makeup, and clothes. Despite the fact that I could only study and she could not, we managed to get along and spend a lot of time together. In return for educating me about fashion, Stephanie would often get help from me to study for exams. We corresponded via letters for a while after her move, but the frequency of the letters decreased as we both became more busy with friends. It was a long overdue reunion, since we had grown fairly apart. So I got married and had a kid over there, but a lot happened, and now I'm back here. Ah, I see. That had to have been difficult. Yes, my spouse did really cheat on me. By the way, when is a good time for me to visit your home? I would like to catch up. Come on over, of course. I would love to talk. As a result, Stephanie and I got back in touch, and our families began interacting. Due to their shared traits, Henry and Stephanie got along well and grew close right away. They used to have lively chats, as if they had been friends forever whenever Stephanie came to visit. Eva's age was around the same as Stephanie's kid, who shared her mother's strong sense of style. Eva would make an effort to be cordial whenever Stephanie and her daughter visited, but they didn't seem to get along. She stated my looks and clothes are plain, and that it's unbelievable that I'm not into dating or fashion. Though she's a little younger than me, she makes me feel inferior, Eva told me after they'd gone. It makes no difference what you do because everyone is unique. Put it out of your mind. I think you're fantastic in your current state. I attempted to console her, but every time Eva and Stephanie were together, Eva's daughter would pester her. The time that had been spent since Henry and Stephanie last spoke had significantly decreased. Henry was quite devoted to Stephanie's daughter, and it appeared that he enjoyed it too. Stephanie is having trouble with a light not working in her house. I'll go check it out this weekend. It must be tough for her as a single mom. I should help her out whenever I can, Henry said, feeling sorry for her single-parent situation. He started going over to Stephanie's house to help out more often, and Stephanie didn't show any hesitation in accepting his help. Really, Henry can do anything, and he's so reliable and quick. I'll keep asking for his help. Stephanie praised and flattered Henry right in front of me. Henry, enjoying the attention, wasn't entirely displeased. As a result, Henry started mentioning Stephanie more often and became more engrossed in her. Stephanie, who used to visit regularly, started to visit less frequently, and Henry started to spend more time away from home. Don't you think that lately, Dad, you're spending too much time at Stephanie's place? Is she truly in such need of assistance? I don't believe Stephanie is totally defenseless, Eva said. Mothers who are single have a lot on their plates. Who will assist her if I do not? Henry answered. Eva and I were becoming more and more irritated with Henry since it appeared like he was more worried about Stephanie's home than ours. I gently brought up our displeasure with Henry, but he made no adjustments to his behavior. Eva and I were unable to ignore the fact that he visited Stephanie's residence 3 days in a row. Please pay a little more attention to our family. After all, Stephanie is simply a friend, I remarked. Dad, I really don't understand what you're thinking, said Eva. Henry exclaimed with a sigh. I wish Stephanie and her daughter were my real family, instead of being stuck with such dull people. I never thought I'd hear those words. I was too shocked to say anything. After this occurrence, I started to lose my love for Henry. Henry and I started having just the most basic conversations as our home life grew icier. Ava and Henry appeared to be further apart than before. It was bound to happen. I reasoned that it would be sufficient as long as we could live comfortably. I went shopping after having that thought. There was a loud crash and the sound of brakes as I finished and started to ride my bike home. I was lying on the ground when I awoke. Everything around me was aflutter. I gently opened my eyes, attempting to process what had transpired. My groceries were all over the place, and my bike was tossed far away. I thought, oh, I was in an accident. My whole body hurt as soon as I had that notion. In the distance, I could hear the sirens of ambulances. I endured the discomfort while I awaited the arrival of the ambulance. The discomfort caused me to lose consciousness even on the way to the hospital. Ava came over as soon as the treatment was over, and I was back in my hospital room. Mom, are you okay? I apologize for worrying you, Ava. I'll have to stay here for a while, they said. Just that you're alive pleases me. I was somewhat concerned. I'm hoping you feel better soon. I was sorry to have worried Eva. Although I couldn't recall much about the collision, I was sincerely thankful to still be alive. For now, I'll focus on getting better quickly. That's how my hospital stay started. Ava came to see me after school almost every day starting on the 4th day of my hospital stay, but Henry hadn't shown up once. I believe he is aware of my accident and the fact that I have a broken leg and am in the hospital. Perhaps Ava was reluctant to talk to him, which is why she didn't inform him. Hey, Ava, did you tell your dad about me? Yes, I did tell him. Is he still yet to visit you? No, not even once. If you tell him, though, that's fine. Had the hospital gotten in touch with him as well? Dad needs to stop by and say hello. Even though we didn't converse much at home, he needs to at least pay his wife a visit while she is in the hospital. Henry's lack of interest made me a little depressed. When Eva came to see me 2 days later while she was on break from school. How horrible, Nora. Did you get into an accident? Stephanie shouldn't have known, but for some reason, she entered the hospital room. As I wondered how she knew, Henry moved silently into view from behind her. And so, at last, he paid Stephanie a visit. He must be making the most of my hospital stay as an excuse to be with her all the time. Though I didn't anticipate him showing any worry, I didn't anticipate him bringing Stephanie along. Oh, Stephanie, you came together? Surprised, I said. Then Henry, who'd been quiet, said something. Nora, I need to talk to you. Henry went on. I'm going to marry Stephanie, so let's get divorced, with no regard for me. Perplexed, Eva and I exchanged glances. What? Why did you say that? Startled, I inquired. I asked again, thinking I had misheard. I told Stephanie I loved her. You and Eva must go because we are getting married. I had absolutely no understanding of what he was saying. It reminded me of a moment from a television show that I watch every day. I turned to Stephanie after realizing I would never go anywhere talking to an ecstatic Henry. Stephanie, what is this about? It has the exact same meaning as it sounds. Henry is my love. I want him. Surely the two of you are no longer close. Why won't you just give him to me? Stephanie had a serious look on her face. Can anyone be this self-centered? My husband, of all people, a good friend wouldn't do this. You're the only one who thinks you're friends, she scoffed. What? What do you mean? You've always been having fun, Nora. You never had the same sense of style as me. But you were intelligent, so I stayed because it was practical. You were a huge assistance to me during those exams back then. I was the only one who believed we were friends, and Stephanie merely saw me as someone who could be used. Stephanie went on, feeling pleased about making fun of me. Henry and I have a good relationship, and he appears content with me. I believe I'm a better fit for him. Stephanie smirked and whispered in my ear, "Besides, he doesn't seem to be having any financial difficulties." You know, Henry's respectable pay really wowed Stephanie. She was going to throw Eva and me out and replace us, all the while pretending she needed to have an affair with him. Fully enamored with her, Henry fell deeply in love with Stephanie. They wanted to complete the divorce while I was unable to act, as I was now conveniently in the hospital. Their careless actions gave me the impulse to sigh. This is something I never thought would happen to me. It feels like a scene from a television show. Stephanie and Henry were waiting triumphantly for me to give up, but I was bothered by the two enthusiastic people. Eva burst out laughing. She had not spoken before. "You two aren't meant to be married. Don't you know, Dad?" Eva then said something unexpected. "Stephanie, you're in the middle of a divorce because you cheated, and you're getting asked for huge alimony." Stephanie said her husband had cheated on her when we got back in touch, but it was a total fabrication. After Stephanie was found to have cheated and was ordered to leave, divorce procedures were initiated. She was searching for her next source of financial assistance during the divorce, and Henry was the ideal candidate. After Stephanie obtained Henry's commitment to marry her, she intended to file for divorce and waited the 6 months required for them to be able to remarry. Additionally, she intended to use Henry's money to pay for her husband's alimony, as well as that of her affair partner's wife after getting remarried. "That is untrue. I cherish Henry so much," Stephanie yelled. Eva persisted, nonetheless, undaunted. "Well, everything was conveyed to me by Stephanie's kid. She covered a wide range of topics. Ultimately, my mother and I were made fun of as though we were not even involved." Eva had foreseen this outcome by sensing Henry and Stephanie's relationship in some way. She dug up all the soil she could with Stephanie's daughter's help. Eva's daughter denigrated her, so in an attempt to prove her dominance, she revealed all the family secrets when Eva brought up the possibility of Henry and I being divorced. Because of this, Eva was aware of Stephanie's scheme and prepared to use it as a trump card when the appropriate moment arrived. I think that my constant efforts in her education, together with all the divorce and legal knowledge I imparted from the TV shows I watched, have contributed to her ability to acquire information and judge situations calmly. My kid is still in high school, but even still, I'm in awe of her intelligence and initiative. After learning that her scheme had been discovered, Stephanie urgently called her daughter. "What on earth were you talking about? I cannot carry out my idea because of you. All I have left is nothing. It's a good cash cow at last." On the phone, Stephanie and her daughter began to argue. After realizing this, Henry came to the conclusion that he had been duped for his money. "Huh?" Henry was speechless, too astonished by the abrupt turn of events. As it turned out, Stephanie had picked on Henry because she believed he was wealthy and assumed he was a business president. Although Henry really worked for his in-laws, he had pretended to be in control in order to win Stephanie over. It had backfired on Henry's typically cheery and cocky demeanor, and all I could do was laugh at the ridiculousness. Henry panicked, knowing Stephanie's whole strategy and motivations. "I apologized to Nora." Henry stumbled. "Please forget what I said earlier." "What things are you talking about?" Ava's cool-headed comment startled Henry. "I made up that I wanted a divorce. In the heat of the moment, I just said it." Henry slouched and silently observed my behavior, noticing without commenting. It was a lie. "Mom, are you listening?" asked Eva. "Yes, I can hear you clearly." I was never going to forgive him for having an affair with Stephanie, even if he was lying. Henry could have prevented this if he had exercised good discretion. Eva and I were unable to forgive Henry. We stood there for a long moment, unable to speak until Henry asked, "But you two can't live without my salary, right? Divorce would be difficult." His brief period of regret soon passed as he threatened us, suggesting that we would struggle to make ends meet without his income. Henry exuded confidence in his ability to keep Eva and me going. "Henry, we can function perfectly fine without you. As you advised, we will proceed with the divorce, and I will make sure Wilson and Leah are aware of this." "Please don't," Henry begged. "Please don't tell them." "What's done is done, regardless of your opinion," I firmly retorted. I sighed deeply and begged him to go for the time being. Once I was in the hospital room alone, I started to think about how a TV show's lead character might handle this. In my heart, though, I knew the answer already. I had to mend my leg first. I was released from the hospital a few days after the crazy scenario. Rehab helped me become proficient in using crutches. I needed crutches to get around even at home, but I could get by on a daily basis gradually. Henry was pleading with me to reverse the divorce even after I was released from the hospital. I said nothing, and Eva would always accuse him when she saw him. Henry moved into a hotel because he felt more and more uneasy at home. Wilson and Leah visited me a few days later after learning of my discharge. "It must have been difficult for Nora. Are you all right?" Leah inquired, bringing frozen prepared meals and expressing her worry. "Henry took yesterday off, by the way. Does he feel sick at all?" "Henry has actually been residing in a motel. Actually, the situation is..." I walked Wilson and Leah through the entire chain of events that led from Henry's first meeting with Stephanie to their affair. "So, while I was in the hospital, he got to know my old friend, and they had an affair before falling in love. They both showed up to demand a divorce and told me to get out of the house so they could move in with Eva." "Is that accurate? What does he think?" a visibly irritated Wilson stated. "There's more to the tale." I went on to tell them about Stephanie's impending marriage to Henry in order to get financial support, as well as her ongoing divorce and alimony obligations. Henry's mistake was to claim that he was the company president. Was it actually what he said? What an utter idiot. But I can't forgive myself for trying to give up on Nora and Eva, Leah firmly stated. "We must speak with him. Indeed, he needs a severe wake-up call." So after a few days, we invited Henry to his parents' home so that we could have a conversation. "You've been cheating, haven't you?" Henry said nothing, appearing remorseful. "Furthermore, you attempted to eject Nora and Eva." Wilson forcefully stated, "What were you thinking? Abandoning your own wife and child is unacceptable." At last, Henry started talking. "No, you're not getting it. I got duped, that's all. She tricked me into filing for divorce. I never would have done this if I had known from the beginning that she was pursuing my money. Nora is to blame for getting back in touch with her." Henry would not own up to his errors. Instead, he placed the responsibility on me. Wilson's expression clouded upon realizing this. "What are you saying?" "You are not to blame. You continued to deceive and claim to be the company's president. I can't trust you anymore, even though I was going to have you take over. You've got the boot." Wilson eventually disowned Henry, and you could feel his rage. "Henry, you really let us down." Leah, however, appeared frustrated by her son's behavior and lack of regret. "I apologize, but I stand by my decision. You ought to be expressing regret to Nora," Wilson firmly stated. "I apologize sincerely, Nora. Please," Henry said weakly, "give me another opportunity." Observing Henry's parents reject him, I couldn't help but feel pity for him. Henry's life changed dramatically following the divorce. He turned to gambling for comfort when he was having problems at work and in his personal life. And this quickly turned into an addiction. Even with the cost of paying child support and alimony, Henry was unable to resist the attraction of gaming. Over time, his addiction got worse and eventually destroyed his finances. He frequently used the money he made from his employment to go straight into gambling, which trapped him in a vicious cycle of debt and despair. His life, which had been affluent, had become a daily battle to make ends meet. In the meantime, Stephanie dealt with her own problems in a neighboring town. She found it difficult to fund her lifestyle after losing her husband's income and not being able to rely on her affair partner. She had trouble finding steady work or being able to support herself on her own because of the scandal that shook their tiny community. From their deeds, Henry and Stephanie both received painful lessons. Henry was consumed by his addiction to gambling, and Stephanie had to deal with the fallout from her lies and manipulation. They were left to deal with the fallout from their decisions as their lives deviated more from the cozy life they had known. For our part, me and Ava concentrated on starting over without Henry. We overcame the consequences of the divorce and proceeded with renewed courage and endurance with the help of Wilson and Leah. Even though it had been difficult, the experience had given them important insights about resilience, trust, and the value of family ties. Henry's gambling addiction and financial struggles persisted despite the challenges he experienced following his divorce. Henry asked for financial support from both his parents and me, but we were unable to meet his needs. Thus he was left to handle his bills by himself. Although I had some sympathy for Henry, I was aware that helping him would just make his gambling addiction worse. I just hoped Henry would have the fortitude to get past his problems and make a fresh start. In the meantime, May and Ava stayed close to Henry's parents, who gave them comfort and support through this trying period. As we went on with their lives, their generosity gave them security and comfort. Ava excelled academically and was able to get into the university she had always wanted to attend. She enjoyed a happy college life while pursuing her dream of becoming a researcher with my and Henry's parents' support. Henry's future was still up in the air. Though his financial difficulties and addiction placed a pall over his future, I clung to the dream that he would one day emerge from the